As we head into Battle of the Belts 3, Quake by the Lake, we have another episode of AEW Dynamite, which we'll review next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. Ralph, we start things off with your favorite wrestler, Orange Cassidy. This time he wrestles Jay Lethal in a pretty competitive match, goes about 15 minutes. A very solid match, but afterwards, Jay Lethal calls out Wardlow, which then Wardlow comes out to the ring, sends everybody out to the floor, and then we find out that it will set up a match for this coming Saturday's Battle of the Belts 3 for the TNT Championship, Wardlow versus Jay Lethal. Your thoughts on the match with Cassidy and the aftermath with Wardlow and Jay Lethal?
Well, I certainly don't have to get into my thoughts on Orange Cassidy. The outcome was all but predetermined in my mind. He was not going to get a win over somebody credible yet again. So, sells a lot of t-shirts, doesn't win a lot of matches. I guess you can kind of take it from there. Now, what's interesting is this. Orange Cassidy seems to have been on the TV show pretty much every week since the time he wrestled Wardlow. Was that the last time Wardlow's been on Dynamite?
Yes. No. Hey, on Dynamite, yes.
I think he made an appearance on Rampage one time since that. But in any event,
Friday,
maybe he's been hiding out on Dark. Maybe he's been trying to get a contract from old Paul Levesque over in WWE. Who knows where he's been and who knows what he's been doing. But it's good to see the most over guy in the company for the first time in all of 3 weeks. So definitely reassuring to see him back. Believe it or not, I'm actually excited to see what him and Jay Lethal have up their sleeve, because this is definitely, at least off the top of my mind, the first prominent feud I think that we're going to see Jay Lethal in AEW since he's
what
debuted.
about the feud with Samoa Joe?
Do you remember it? Did it happen on their main A show? Or was it like, hey, we're going to put it on
No, most of it was on
honest
Dynamite.
to God, I don't even remember.
Most of it was on Dynamite. It was backstage segments, most of it, and they were attacking.
And Samoa Joe was hurt.
Right.
So, I will still say this is going to be his most prominent feud, because it's an AEW show, not a Ring of Honor show. Samoa Joe was out. He was hurt. Samoa Joe's a champion in Ring of Honor for at least the past, 3 weeks. And Wardlow is the most over, or was, I don't know if momentum's been killed, but at one point he was the most over guy in AEW. Dare I say, maybe in top 5 in wrestling, most over guy.
Can you really call it a feud, though, if it was set up this past Friday and the TNT Championship is going to happen this coming Saturday? Like, it's just a week of buildup. That's not really a feud, I would think. A feud, I would think, goes for weeks upon weeks upon weeks and gets paid off either at a big episode of Dynamite or a pay-per-view.
Hold on. Settle down. You got yourself all wound up here. You brought up Orange Cassidy, and your hatred has blinded you for what you're talking about here. I said that this...
Wait, hold on. What hatred of Orange Cassidy? I don't have hatred of Orange Cassidy. You do.
I praise Orange Cassidy on a weekly basis on this show. You're the one that...
Bullshit.
Oh, come on now. We don't need to get back into this. I said that I'm looking forward to what will hopefully be Jay Lethal's first feud. So, assuming it goes past 1 week, and I pray to God, I almost don't want to throw this out in the universe right now. That big guy, I almost dropped an F-bomb, but I know people have been complaining about swearing too much on our show.
Satnam Singh?
Satnam Singh, yeah. Okay. I pray to God that this doesn't lead to him in a Wardlow match. Like, no, I don't need to see it. I don't care to see it. Jay Lethal, good wrestler. Good on the mic. There's something there. I'd like to see what him and Wardlow have to offer. Him and Dalsum Singh, no thank you.
Satnam Singh is his name.
Platinum Singh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, like, the thing with Lethal is people were talking about, the test match with Wardlow. He needs to have a test match, how he could go in the ring, because he's having too many squash matches. And that was the reason why they wanted Orange Cassidy to have that match for, 12 to 15 minutes or whatever, and end up being a contested match or whatever. This is the match that it should be. This is really what should have been Wardlow's quote unquote test match. A guy like Lethal, who's been a seasoned vet, has been wrestling all over the world, like Ring of Honor, Impact. a more recognizable name than Orange Cassidy. I know Orange Cassidy's a much more over talent in AEW right now, but he was not the guy to test Wardlow's in-ring ability. Lethal was, or at least a guy like Lethal, I think. And I feel like this would have been a much bigger match to have and something to build towards if it was longer than a week to build it up.
Well, I mean,
especially because you have to build up Lethal a little bit more, because most people only think of Lethal right now for his mainly two big matches, which he lost in. The match against Samoa Joe and the last Ric Flair match, which he was the opponent of Ric Flair, and they lost that match.
Well, he's probably most notable for his run in Impact or TNA or whatever.
No, I'm saying recently. I'm not talking about, in his history. I'm talking about recently.
Well,
wins and losses matter.
Wins and loss and rankings matter too.
Yep, they most certainly do. But let's head on to the next segment here. It is the Undisputed Elite coming back together, talking about this trios title. Adam Cole, for the first time we've seen him in, I think, since Forbidden Door. And he goes out there and he says he's still not medically cleared to compete. Kyle O'Reilly technically is not cleared to compete. So he tells the Young Bucks, listen, if you're not going to take Bobby Fish as your third man, you can't go after these tag titles or these trios tag titles. And then that creates a turn with O'Reilly and Fish attacking the Bucks. Cole comes in, and then the music hits and a big pop from the crowd of Columbus last night, where Hangman Page comes in for the save, teasing a reunion of the Hung Bucks. Adam Page and the Young Bucks going towards these trios championships. I know people wanted Kenny back in this situation. I think a lot of people assumed or speculated they weren't even going to release these titles until Kenny Omega came back. But I think this is a nice little story that we have with Hangman revisiting the Young Bucks, considering if you go all the way back to Full Gear, that last moment before Page wins the match, he gets kind of like a nod of approval from both Nick and Matt Jackson. And then that was really the last time we saw them on TV together before last week and now this week.
Yeah, I know people wanted to see Kenny Omega back. I certainly wanted to see Kenny Omega back, but if he's not healthy, there's really no need to rush him back, number one. And number two, you're exactly right. This absolutely fits the story that they've been telling over the past couple of years, even going back to, what was it, last week, when it seemed like, we were going to get Hangman and the Bucks kind of burying the hatchet, so to speak, before the Dark Order came in and interrupted. But yeah, I don't have a problem with this at all. It makes sense based on, one, the fact that you have that dynamic with the Bucks and Hangman, and two, you have the obvious affiliation with Adam Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly, the Undisputed Era, artists formerly known as the Undisputed Era, if you will, from the Black and Gold
run
from what was that, a couple of years ago? So,
right. Well, I guess last year,
year and a half,
I guess. Wow, freaking COVID made time fly. But anyway, that doesn't necessarily mean Kenny's not coming back, though, because they could give us the but therefore part of the storyline that I always talk about, where now Hangman Page and the Bucks appear to be getting back together, but Kenny Omega comes back. Therefore, Hangman Page joins with the Dark Order and the Young Bucks join with Kenny Omega, and that's your first Trios Championship match.
I didn't know this was story time with Adam Cole.
Baby.
Baby.
But it makes a lot of sense, don't you think?
I don't know what you said. I took my headphones off.
Well, you shouldn't have, because all I was saying was Kenny comes back, joins the Bucks. Hangman joins with the Dark Order. There's your Trios Championship match.
I want to know where the number one contender Roosh was this week.
Not on TV.
Where was Roosh?
How does that relevant to this storyline at this segment of AEW Dynamite?
Well, he opened up the show with old Moxley last week, number one ranked competitor.
Well, he wasn't number one ranked. He was not
rankings.
Number one ranked. He wasn't even ranked. He just was getting that title match because he won 8 matches in a row among 3 divisions or 3 promotions or whatever it was.
I love PWG.
I don't think that was one of the three promotions, but let's move on. Let's get back to AEW Dynamite. Tag team women's action next, and not in their usual women's slot at 9:30, kind of the lull before the main event. No, they get put on before the top of the hour here, and it is Thunderstorm versus Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker, and I thought this was a very good match, very hard-hitting. I thought they were pretty well, I thought the chemistry between all four of them was pretty good. And, for four women that don't necessarily work tag team matches, worked a tag team match better than some of these 17-year veterans that work tag team matches all the time. What ends up happening, though, Jamie Hayter gets the pin on Thunderstorm, thus getting us to our next match for Battle of the Belts. It will be Jamie Hayter, who was ranked number 4 heading into tonight, going against Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's Championship. Now, I would not be surprised because they kind of hinted this on commentary, that although they just won their first tag team match, Britt and Jamie did not really get along in tag team matches. So was that a seed planted for Jamie Hayter to win the AEW Women's Championship and eventually see Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter in a title feud?
I don't know if I see Jamie Hayter actually winning the title just yet, if at all, but at least for right now, I don't think so. Do I think that one way or another this is going to lead to a rift between Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker? Yeah. Britt Baker wants to be the center of attention. They absolutely laid that on pretty thick last night on commentary. And it fits her personality. She surrounds herself with people to protect her when she's the champion, help her out when she needs help, and helps ensure she wins a lot of big matches. But I think that once she sees like somebody that's affiliated with her getting contendership matches, challenging for titles, and maybe some spotlight, I don't think she's going to like that too much, at least in character form. So that's where I think they're going with this.
Well, maybe we'll see how it goes, but I would not be surprised, because the other thing too, with Battle of the Belts, correct me if I'm wrong, I do not think there has been a title change in either of the first two Battle of the Belts. I don't think so. So you're
asking the wrong guy.
Yeah, I'm sure someone could let me know in the comment section. Maybe Sammy beating Cody? Oh no. That was supposed to be a match. It didn't happen because Cody got COVID. So it was a interim championship match. I think that's the only time a title, quote unquote, changed hands. But other than that, I think everything else has been retentions. So maybe just for the sheer fact of, hey, we need to get someone to change titles here. They changed the titles on the women's division, get people talking about that again, and have Jamie Hayter win and get a feud with Britt Baker, because when Britt Baker's not involved in the women's division, unfortunately, it really suffers because there's no real focus in that division, as we've seen time and time again, as many people have argued about it.
I agree 100%. I mean, look at last night's match. It was very evident and apparent that just her being in the match brought everybody up to another level.
Right.
Whether that's because she's simply there and good at what she does, or just because things are more interesting when she's in the title picture.
Yeah.
Or, with wrestling with the top women in AEW.
Totally agree. But unfortunately, we did get some bad news last night. Team Taz is officially done. Taz goes on commentary and says, Hobbs, Starks, Hook, they're all going their own separate ways. I'm not affiliated with them. Team Taz is done. Wishes them all the best of luck. Then Powerhouse Hobbs comes out to a nice little new entrance. It looks like nice little presentation for him. Does a quick squash match with, I believe his name was Ren Jones. I think it was maybe his second match ever in AEW. Then Ricky Starks comes out to a huge pop as soon as his music hits, only to get his ass kicked by Powerhouse Hobbs very, very quickly. So this seems like this is the feud. I thought they were going to write Ricky off for a little bit before he came back, but nope. He's right back for revenge this week. And I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being an all-out feud, pun intended, that this will end up being on the card.
See, I'm definitely not going to complain about this, but don't you feel like sometimes things are better if they let them breathe? Like, wouldn't it have been more impactful and kind of built Hobbs up a little bit, made the match a little more important, or this feud more important, had, he not come back 1 week after Hobbs literally almost knocked his head off his shoulders.
Yeah.
Got some wins. I mean, it's not like Hobbs has done a whole lot as far as singles competition, at least on Dynamite,
right,
in quite some time. So have him win some matches. Ricky can come back. You know what? Honestly, it'd almost be cool if Taz was just his mouthpiece, just him. But
just Powerhouse Hobbs mouthpiece.
Just Hobbs. Yeah.
I mean, they might
Ricky Starks doesn't need somebody.
Right. They might need to play. They might play that later down the line. Who knows? Or maybe he becomes Hook's mouthpiece, because Hook's not one that talks a lot, at least right now, but that's kind of his aura right now, is the fact that he doesn't talk kind of makes people gravitate towards him more. Kind of like Sting in 97 or Goldberg. They didn't talk much, so they just let their in-ring ability do the talking, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. With Hook, it works. So, but Powerhouse Hobbs, I could totally see where you're coming from with that. But one guy that definitely has been doing a lot of talking in this feud is Christian Cage. Not a lot of talking in this segment, though, because it was a match, Christian Cage against Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy gets fooled into getting raked in the eyes before he gets thrown through a table. Led to a kill switch for the victory here on Christian Cage. I thought it was a pretty solid match. Afterwards, we hear the music of Luchasaurus. He gets into the ring. Jungle Boy comes from behind, who was ejected from the building earlier in the night because he almost killed Christian Cage with a car in a backstage interview. So we thought Jungle Boy was gone, but he comes back, chases him out of the arena. And that's the segment this week for Christian Cage and Jungle Boy. And the crowd is really behind Jungle Boy right now. And so far, so good on the execution of this feud.
Tried to run him over with a car, huh? Attempted murder. Does that fall along the lines of pro wrestling or a little sports entertainment, if you will?
Well, I'm pretty sure Grand Theft Auto, well, things that you would see in the video game Grand Theft Auto are not part of a sport. So that would be sports entertainment.
Yeah, well, in any event, you missed the most important thing of Christian's commentary there, or the promo that he cut. He said, and you definitely couldn't even take this serious, I can't believe Jungle Boy would bring up my personal life in that promo. And then he said something along the lines of, I would never do something like that. And it's just like, what? That's all you did.
Right. Well, that's the point. That's the irony of it. That, like, dude, you literally did that.
Right.
And that's kind of like heels do that all the time, where they're like, oh, I would never do that. And you're like, dude, you literally just did that. You know, and
yeah.
It's easy heat. Like, fans will like boo the hell out of that, because it's like, you asshole, you liar. We know that you would do that. Look what you've done already with Jeff Hardy and Luke Perry. You know, it's there. It's easy. So, but yeah, definitely know what you're talking about there. Definitely very important there. So good thing you brought that up. And again, like I said, Jungle Boy is definitely, gotten the support from the fans. If this is his feud that catapults him to the next level, so far, so good. And I really hope, this leads to a big win at All Out, which I think it does. And, we start talking about him as more than just one of the quote unquote 4 pillars of AEW.
The 4 pillows.
Not pillows, pillars. But anyway, one guy that it seems like fans are behind, but someone might disagree with, is Ethan Page, who comes on into the ring to cut a promo after this match. And he basically says that he's not on TV enough. The fans get behind him for, calling out his lack of TV time. But then he turns it on the fans like, you have no reason to talk because you don't buy my t-shirts. You're too busy buying CM Punk t-shirts. You're too busy buying Orange Cassidy t-shirts and sending them to Ralph's house. Where are all those t-shirts, by the way, Ralph? I know you got a few of them in the closet somewhere. They're in there. Come on. Bust one out. It's there. No? Anyway, out comes Stokely.
Next segment.
Next comes Stokely Hathaway, and he gives his business card, walks out of the ring, but then Ethan Page catches up to him, and it looks like they're now joining forces. Apparently, Stokely Hathaway did the same thing with Lee Moriarty, so maybe Hathaway not only doing a faction with the women, he is getting a faction here with the men as well, with some of these quote unquote underutilized talent. You're shaking your head over there.
Just the thought of forming another faction around some guys that. Do we really need to see more of Lee Moriarty on TV? And look, I know that people love him because he did such a great in-ring performer, wrestler. Whatever. But anyway, let me focus on Ethan Page here. I like Ethan Page. I like Ethan Page a lot. I agree. I think he should be on TV a lot more than he actually is. Here's my problem. And this will be my gripe of the week. I've heard that same promo. I heard that promo last week from Ricky Starks. I'm underutilized. This is my moment, blah, 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 before Hobbs knocked his head off, as we said. I heard MJF cut that same promo before he mysteriously vanished from AEW TV, never to be seen again, at least not for now. MJF did it better. And I heard that same promo from CM Punk when he sat on the top of the stage in WWE. Does it get a reaction? Yes. Is this now the most played out promo with the most predictable content? Yes, it is. I've heard that promo a million times. There was nothing wrong with the promo. The content is what I have a problem with. How many times are wrestlers going to come out when they feel like they're not in a certain spot that they feel like they should be in, or feel like they're underutilized for whatever reason, and say the same exact thing with just different words? That's my feeling on it. I know it gets a reaction, but we've heard it, and I've heard it done better by other wrestlers. So I think he should have came from a different angle with it, but that's my opinion of it.
Well, hold on. It's not just an AEW thing. We have to.
No, it's not.
It's a WWE thing too. Any other promotions, they all do the same thing. It's an easy way to get a reaction from the crowd because the crowd understands like these are guys that are underutilized and they want to get on TV more. But to your point, it's kind of a crutch to get them on TV by just saying I'm underutilized and I have to show why I'm underutilized. It like, where does the story go from there? Most of the time when they do this, most of the time, not all the time, they'll say, oh, this person's underutilized, and then they get utilized for a few weeks, and then they're back to, obscurity again. I don't want that happening to Ethan Page. Ethan Page is a good talker from when I've seen him cut promos. He's a good wrestler from when I've seen him in the ring, but it's too far and in between. He definitely needs to be on TV more. So, I mean, hopefully it's not where this is just a couple weeks with Stokely and then that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in that dynamic of it and interested to see where they go with it. But yeah, it's the content, like you said. I don't want it to come across like I'm griping about an AEW thing. This is in pro wrestling across the board. I've seen it a million times. I've heard it a million times. I like Ethan Page, and I look forward to seeing him more on TV. As long as he doesn't turn into the Karate Man. No Karate Man.
No, I really hope that doesn't happen. But next up here, we have the dumpster match between the Ass Boys, Colton and Austin Gunn, going up against the Acclaimed. And
Michael, can you please add some context to this match for our younger audience members?
Okay, so for those that weren't alive back at WrestleMania 14, the father of Austin and Colton Gunn, Billy Gunn, was in a very infamous dumpster match with the New Age Outlaws against Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack. And the story around that, and we saw references to it in this match, especially the end of it, leading up to the match, Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie got put into a dumpster and the dumpster got thrown off the stage, similar to what happened at the end of this segment after the match was over. So I honestly don't know. I think this got set up on Rampage. I didn't watch Rampage this past week, so I don't know the full context of it, but I'm pretty sure it was just because of Billy Gunn being in that dumpster match and the whole like rap battle that everybody had, and one of them got called garbage or something. It led to this dumpster match. Maybe I'm wrong on the full context of it, but someone could, let me know on Twitter at SCPV Podcast or in the comment section here. But that's basically what it was. And the dumpster match that we got was a dumpster match. You're basically, it's like a casket match, but instead of a casket, it's a dumpster. And, Max Caster gets the win here from the mic drop off the top of the stage, gets everybody, both guys in the ring or in the dumpster. then we see them push it off. But I think most people are talking about the wrap that happened after the match started, because they, attacked the Ass Boys really quick. But then Max Caster says, "Hit my music." And one of the lines was, "No filter, we ain't Instagram. We'll make the Ass Boys retire like Vince McMahon." So another WWE reference in his raps, which he does them so well. And I know, both do jabs at him, and at times I'm like, enough with the WWE jabs. This one here, I think, it gets a pop, it gets a reaction, but it's like, who cares at this point?
I like Max Caster. I like the Acclaimed. If there's a team that I feel might be a little underutilized, it might be them. I'd like to see them put in a position where they could potentially challenge for the titles or carry the titles. That's after FTR wins the titles, because they are long overdue for a challenge.
18
and
weeks
a win,
in a row, number one, no title match.
Right. Here's why I'll tell you. Look, whether you like this match, whether you like this build, whether you like this feud, here's the one thing I'm going to say about this. You and I sometimes are critical on here because there are what seem to be these important matches with high stakes on the line with really no build. Last week's match with Rush and Moxley is probably a good example of it. Weekly episodic television, stuff that makes you want to watch every week, or something that tells a story. This has been built up for probably a good month now.
At least.
Tension, if you include the fact that they were together before this match, and then there was a rift between them probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, it's like it's built up to this point over the course of the past 3 or 4 weeks on multiple shows. So I like that, because it's like, okay, I've been watching Dynamite every week. Okay, I remember this from last week. It's not just I'll give you a perfect example. Rampage Friday. John Moxley's wrestling who?
This coming Friday?
Yes.
Mance Warner.
Okay. Unless you're a diehard wrestling fan, do you think a majority of the wrestling fan base knows who he is?
I know who he is. You know who he is.
I know who he is.
But I think those that probably only watch what is on weekly television, AEW and WWE, won't know who he is.
Okay. So it kind of makes the point, like, why? What's the point of that match? Why is that happening with just some random guy that's never wrestled in AEW? So, yes, I like the fact that the Acclaimed and the Ass Boys were built up to this point. The spot at the end of the match could have been really dangerous because the zip ties ripped. Did you notice that? When the dumpster flipped completely over? Because definitely could have landed on top of one of them.
Hence why there's all that cushion in the dumpster when they do that spot.
Cushion's not on the top of the dumpster, though, so that metal piece, it was a good match. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a fun match, but it is what it is. It's a dumpster match. It's sports entertainment, if you will. But speaking of sports entertainment, the sports entertainer himself, Chris Jericho, is in the main event against the Ring of Honor Pure Champion Wheeler Yuta. The winner takes on Jon Moxley at Quake by the Lake next week, which was already, accepted by Moxley against Jericho. But then there was this promo segment on Rampage where Yuta was saying he can beat Jericho, and Jericho asked him for a match. Yuta declined. Then Jericho said, "I'll put my title spot on the line," and Yuta accepted. So that's how we got to this point. And I thought it was a very good match. We had 2.0 out with Jericho, but then Claudio Castagnoli comes out to even the odds. Angelo Parker tries to trip Yuta at one point in this match. Aubrey Edwards catches him in the act, and while trying as hard as she can not to make it focus on her, ejects Angelo Parker and Matt Menard from ringside as Claudio Castagnoli waves goodbye to them. Focus back onto the match itself. We saw, back and forth between both of them, near falls, but eventually it was Chris Jericho, the Lionheart, winning with the Lion Tamer on Wheeler Yuta. Moxley comes out afterwards as Jericho tries to, would not let go of the Lion Tamer. Moxley chases him out of the ring. Jericho gets on the mic and says, "You wanted the Lionheart, you got him. I'm going to stretch the I will stretch you out. I guarantee it." That is the closing moment of AEW Dynamite this week. You know, it's a good way to, you know, get people watching AEW Dynamite. This is a big match with two of their big main guys. I expect Moxley to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jericho beats Moxley. And I said this last week too, because you get Jericho, the sports entertainer, going against the flag bearer of quote unquote pro wrestling, CM Punk, which I would think CM Punk is going to be back fairly soon before All Out. At least that was the report a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I really would not be surprised if Jericho ends up being the first two. Actually,
no, Moxley is.
I guess if you count. Yeah, so the second two-time AEW champion. Yeah, because it does set up that dynamic between Punk and Jericho. They have a backstory with that. Not only that, but they have feuded in the past. So, yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting, I think. And this is one of those things, like, you want to go into a match where you kind of feel a little unsure. Going into this, do I think Moxley will win? Yes, but can I say I'm 100% positive? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as clear cut, I think, because as I say, you know, the person that goes over on the go home, quote unquote, is the one that puts their shoulders to the mat on the big show, the big match. That's not always the case, but that's, I would say, maybe 7 or 8 times out of 10, that's the case. This might be one of the 2 times it's not, but it might be one of the 8 that it is. And with Moxley chasing Jericho out, I would think that's, you know, while Jericho got the win, Moxley did go over in the segment to close out the show. So is that, you know, their way of saying Moxley's getting over here, Jericho wins next week? And, you know, with who knows what happens with the Jericho Appreciation Society, Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti might be back from their wedding hiatus. Eddie Kingston might get involved somehow. Does Claudio and Bryan Danielson get involved? Does Daniel Garcia get involved? This could turn into a good match with a clusterfuck ending, honestly.
You hope not, because that's one of the things that WWE typically pulls that I hate. You know, matches like that, even though it's on Dynamite, I would hope that there's a clear-cut winner, and that could have involvement. You know, I have no problem with people coming out and influencing the outcome of a match. Disqualification, stuff like that. I hate that in matches. And I know it serves its purpose, but I think this is probably the most I've looked forward to a Chris Jericho match in quite some time. I'll tell you that much. He looked good last night.
He did. He did.
Good. That was a better... Granted, Wheeler Yuta, I think, controlled much of the offense and the pace of the match, but Jericho held his own.
Right. Now, I think what's going to determine the outcome of this match is who's going to be the referee. Because I believe Moxley, for the most part, uses Bryce Remsburg in his matches, but Jericho uses Aubrey Edwards in his matches. So who gets the upper hand on their personal referee? And whoever's referee is in that match, I guarantee is going to be the one that wins it. So if Edwards is in the match, then Jericho wins. If Remsburg is the ref, then Moxley wins.
I don't know. I'm still gonna lean towards Moxley no matter who the ref is. I'm not gonna get into conspiracies on such things.
That's not a conspiracy theory. It's true. They have their own personal referees. The Bucks
I've had
have
enough
Rick
of
Knox.
Conspiracies for the day.
That's not
I listened to Joe Rogan earlier this morning where this guy was trying to convince Joe that I think it was Nixon made a deal with I forget who. It involved allowing aliens to abduct humans. I can't do any more conspiracies. I can't. I just can't do it.
I guess not. But who do you think wins this AEW World Championship match next week? Chris Jericho or Jon Moxley? Send us a tweet at SCPB Podcast. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on all our podcast providers. And also subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that bell for notifications. We'll see you on the next episode of the Squared Circle Psychobabble.